Euro nymphing for about 15 minutes now.
Yeah, go ahead and let him swim. I'm on it. The inchers, first day Euro nymphing, he has 2 fish on at once.
What's better than 1 fish?
Dude, you're catching them 2 Oh, get him off! Yay! Are you kidding?
Dude,
Both solid little
dandies.
trout too. Yeah, I mean they're not dings too. Those are right our catchable range. Is that 10-foot 2-8? All right, he's running up the score, folks. Dude, that's a nice one. Maybe I just show him in the net. Oh, nice. Dude, that's a good fish.
Just bumping along the bottom, and then sure enough, felt just something a little different. Lifted right up, and dude was pinned.
Hey, it's Joe at Red's Fly Shop here. Hey, so you bought a Euro nymphing rod. Now, what in the world are you gonna do with it? It's a question that we get all the time. People are intrigued by Euro nymph fishing because it allows somebody to fish on foot and be highly effective without having to cover a lot of water. You can find a good riffle, a good hole, and you can pick a handful of fish out of there because your presentation is so perfect. Well, today I'm gonna take out Bobby Miller, our shop manager, whom a lot of you have known or worked with, and my good old buddy Troy Lichtenegger, regional sales rep for Echo Fly Rods. The 3 of us are gonna hit the river. It's gonna be Bobby's first time Euro nymphing. Bobby versus Euro nymphing. It's gonna be great. But the first thing we're gonna do today is we're gonna learn the step 1 to Euro nymphing, okay? This is really basic, it's really easy. I suggest when you get your rod, you're gonna get your leader all set up. There's lots of other videos on setup. I'm not gonna do that. But let's just picture yourself, you've got your Euro rod, you've got your flies on there, you're ready to give it a go and learn the basics. Get in a spot with small gravel that's about 12 to 18 inches deep, just like I'm standing right here. You don't want to go out anywhere with a lot of boulders and a lot of dips because the first step is you got to learn to initiate and maintain contact with the bottom. This is tight line fishing. You have to understand that. So what I want to do is my flies are going to go down and hit the bottom right there. And you can see that bright colored cider line is tight. You need to learn to keep your flies moving across the bottom with a tight line. So I'm going to make a cast right here. Okay, I'm going to throw right up by the shore. And I know this is a little scaled down, but I'm going to learn to lead these flies through, and I can see that fly bumping along the bottom. And it's going to stall from time to time. But what I'm going to learn to do is I'm going to learn to keep the flies moving along the bottom just like that with tension on that cider. So now I'm going to back up a little bit and I'm going to make what would be a real drift. Granted, I just walked through that water, but I'm going to set my flies up here and I'm going to raise the rod tip up and then I'm going to dip the flies in until I see them start tapping the bottom. And I'm going to learn to lead the flies through with a little downstream tension, just like this. I'm leading them across. Those nymphs are agitating on the bottom. When it stalls, it means I wasn't leading them through enough. I should not be snagging bottom. You're going to snag bottom very little with a Euro fishing setup. Okay, I need to put a little bit more downstream tension on that. And I'm going to lead them through. I'm going to raise the rod up, and I'm going to pause right in front of you here, like that right there. And you could see that cider start to hesitate and hang up on camera there. I need to keep upward tension on the flies and downward tension on the flies. And I'm going to lead it through. And I can feel, because this Echo Shadow X is so sensitive, I can feel every little tap of the bottom. I'm going to stop right there. You can see I've got a nice angle on the cider right there. And I'm going to keep leading it through. I was stalled a little bit, but I'm going to learn to lead it through just like that. So that is literally step 1. We need to learn to get those flies on the bottom, and we need to keep them on the bottom, but you can't let it go slack. That's one of the toughest challenges. You're going to learn a lot doing this. I strongly encourage you to do this exercise. I'm going to step out and just make a few drifts. When I teach these classes on Euro nymphing right here on this very river, same spot in fact, my students have way more success. They cut the learning curve in half when we spend 15 to 20 minutes learning to see what the bottom feels like and keep that tension the same all the way through, from the time the nymphs touch the bottom of the top of the drift to the time we touch the bottom at the bottom of the drift, or at the end of the drift. We need to maintain that contact. You're gonna notice my rod goes through a rising motion. It stops at the top in the middle of the drift, and then it's gonna fall towards the end, and I'm gonna keep those flies skittering and touching and tapping bottom, tantalizing rainbow trout. So I'm gonna step out and I'm just gonna go through the exercise. This is the starting point everyone should use when they purchase a Euro setup. And I like a line length off my reel where the leader is about 2 feet longer than my rod for this exercise. So I'm gonna reel in a little bit of line. I've got a 10.5-foot rod, so I'm gonna use about, say, 13 feet of leader out my rod tip, and that seems to make the exercise easy to control. Okay, one more cast. That one was a really good drift. Sometimes it takes a few drifts just to feel that, but I could feel my flies working the bottom all the way through there. When you get that vibe, you know you are fishy. So spend some time in shallow water. Don't get in anywhere where there's big boulders or drop-offs or surprises. You need to learn to fish a uniform bottom first, and then eventually what you're gonna do is you're gonna take and be able to dip this sighter into deeper water. I can dip all the way down into 6 feet of water, down to that first whisker there. If I'm down into about 7 feet of water, I can dip all the way down to that second whisker, and I can fish the entire range of this sighter system. But trying to do that as a beginner is extremely difficult. I want you to stay in shallow water. If you have 2 to 3 feet of tippet on, we're probably going to keep that sighter out of the water most of the time. But learn to work the bottom, make contact, initiate contact. So that's step one. Let's go fishing with Bobby and Troy and have Bobby take on Euro nymphing for the first time.